In this clip, I will test out what is the best tape for artists. I will try to find out what is the best tape to use for art by testing 4 top art tapes with oil paint, acrylic paint, watercolour, colour pencil and oil pastel. I will also be testing the tape on different types of paper and canvas to find out which is the best tape for artists. So before we start the product review, I'm going to briefly talk about all of the 4 tapes. If there's a particular tape that you use that you've found successful with a particular media, why not leave a comment in the description below? It may help someone with their choices. So firstly, I'm going to talk about the Moleskine washi tape. It's a light, waterproof and easy to rip off. I know that this works well with most media and watercolour, but would like to test it against these other 3 tapes. I'm also going to be using masking tape by 3M. It's multi-purpose but can fall short with watercolour. It would be really good to see how it fares with acrylic and oil paint. It's high quality and tears really easily. It claims to be high adhesion with no residue. I will then be moving on to Scotch Sharp Lines Advanced Masking Tape. It claims to give super sharp paint lines with 3M advanced technology and has clean removal up to 21 days and medium adhesion tack. The last tape that I'll be looking at comes from a recommendation of a friend, and it's called Paint Pro Premium Masking Tape, and it's the constructor's or builder's choice. However, I do know a couple of artists that use this, and it can be removed cleanly for up to 8 days and will not pull paint off. That's the claim from Amazon. It's a strong crepe paper and makes masking curved lines easier, and clean straight lines mean less edge bleed. So it will be interesting to see if these claims are actually true. I will be trying all of these tapes against oil paint, acrylic paint, watercolour paint, pastel, oil pastel with solvent and coloured pencil with solvent. So let's get into the testing process. So the first thing that I'm doing to prepare for the oil paint test is I'm sectioning off a canvas sheet. Because you will paint on canvas when you're using oil paint, it's only fair to test these tapes on canvas. It would be pointless testing them on paper because you won't be painting on paper. So I'm testing all of these tapes, I'm laying them up, and I will lay them up this way on each of the surfaces. The surfaces will change throughout. I'll be using different types of paper. So you can find details of all the products that I've used in the description below. I have also used these Georgian oil paints, and I will be leaving them to dry for 7 days. When I actually took the tape off of them, they were slightly damp in areas because I'd laid them up quite thickly, but they were pretty dry in most of the areas. There was just one corner on the intersection between the green tape and the blue tape, and you will see there's a slight overhang. But other than that, they were pretty dry. So for the acrylic painting, I will be using System 3 paint, and again there is a link in the description below. I will be using a palette knife to apply the paint, and I will just be applying an initial layer of red and then working on top with a lighter mix of yellow and red just to show the layers. I want to add quite a few layers just to give a realistic impression of what would happen if you were using these tapes on canvas. And as previously with the oil paint, I've used a sheet of canvas paper so that you can give an idea of what it would be like if you're working on a canvas, because obviously you wouldn't normally be painting on paper, you would be painting on canvas. Though I've tested tapes out with watercolour paint before, I'm curious to see how these tapes perform against watercolour paint. So I'm going to be using cold pressed watercolour paper because I will be applying a significant amount of water. I'll be doing wet on wet technique, and I will be applying quite a lot of water so that if you choose to buy one of these tapes for watercolour, you can be safe in the knowledge that they will work with wet on wet technique. As you can see, I'm applying quite a lot of water to the paper surface, and you can see already that the water is resting on top of the tape. So it'd be interesting to see how this tape performs when I take the tape off at the end. In a recent clip, I was asked to test tape on 200 GSM paper. So this is standard cartridge paper, it's 200 GSM, and I'm going to be testing this with colour pencil. This is Prismacolor pencil, and I will be adding Zest-It solvent on top so that you can see whether there is a crisp line once I've added the solvent. So I'm just going to show you my blending of one of the pencils going up to the edge, and then at the end I will show you me applying the solvent onto that so you can see that technique that I've used, and then at the end obviously I will show you the tape at the end of the clip. For the last test, I will be using oil pastel with solvent on pastel paper. For information on the products that I've used, please look at the description below. I'm curious with this section to see how the tape is removed from the pastel paper and whether it rips the paper or whether it leaves a clear line. For the oil pen test, I went in with high expectations of the blue and green tape because I've heard a lot of good things about the clean lines that they offer. So when I peeled away the green tape, it left quite a sticky residue. Same as the white tape also left quite a lot of sticky residue, which is disappointing because it claims on the Amazon website, both the green and the white tape, that they don't leave a sticky residue. I was also disappointed with the washi tape that it left quite a lot of tape bleed or paint bleed underneath the tape. All in all, the blue tape came first and the masking tape came second because they left the least amount of paint coming through. The green tape unfortunately had a lot of paint coming through, as did the washi tape. The masking tape came second because of the residue. There was quite a lot of gluey residue left over. The blue tape came off really easy, and also it left clean lines, as it said on the Amazon website that it left clean lines. So this one gets 2 points and the masking tape gets 1 point. This particular section was disappointing because though I couldn't find a clear winner, as all of the tapes had paint bleed, there were two that were slightly edged forward because the tapes removed easier and there wasn't as much paint bleed. So the first tape I'm going to talk about is the masking tape, because there was paint bleed, but also it was difficult to remove, so that meant that the paint came away with the masking tape. Next was the washi tape. Again, this was disappointing as there was paint bleed underneath 3 of the edges, and also some paint got removed when I lifted the washi tape off. In second place is the blue tape. Unfortunately, again, on 2 of those edges there was a significant amount of paint bleed, and in first place, though I'm not really satisfied with the paint bleed, there was a minimal amount of paint bleed, so this one just scraped in at first place, and that was the green Paint Pro tape. Though I'm not entirely happy with this tape, and if I had a choice I would do this test again with another tape. So that means that the green tape is in first place and the blue tape is in second place. I was curious to see how the green and blue tape performed. I have used watercolour with masking tape and washi tape before, so I have an idea how they'll perform. I also took some of the tack off by applying the tapes to fabric before I put them down to give them all a fair chance, and I also used a hairdryer to dry them afterwards, so this should help with the process of taking the tapes off. However, I found that the blue tape tore the paper when I removed it, and also there was some paint bleed when I took the tapes off the paper afterwards. As you can see, when I remove the masking tape, there is quite a significant amount of water that has got under this masking tape, so this would not be a good tape to use for watercolour. So obviously the masking tape came last because of all that water getting under the paper. The blue tape, as well as tearing the paper edge, unfortunately had some paint bleed under the tape surface, so the winner is the washi tape with the crisp edges. So the washi tape gets 2 points and the green tape gets 1 point. For the colour pencil and solvent, I have been using 200 GSM paper at the request of someone on my channel, and I found that when I was removing the tape, the green tape left a residue, so that's why it's helpful to do these tests with different types of papers. So out of these tapes, I found that the masking tape came second because the blue tape and the masking tape both created a smooth edge around the whole media. However, the masking tape was quite difficult to remove, and I just had to take it off really gently. Someone that was less experienced may have ripped the paper. The blue tape came off perfectly, so that's why the blue tape gets first place with 2 points and the masking tape gets second with 1 point. Now this test is quite surprising in that there's one clear loser, not one clear winner, and that is the masking tape. If you have a look at this tearing away of the tape here, I'm always really careful, and if you have a look here, look at how this tears away the paper, and this was on for a really minimal amount of time, so this is disappointing. And when you consider this is an expensive brand of paper, you don't want that to happen. The other tapes peeled away with ease, there wasn't an issue, so that was perfectly good. And also they had clear lines. So what I decided to do for this section was to award first place to all of the other tapes, and the masking tape gets no points at all. So which tape is the best tape for artists? In first place came the Scotch Blue Sharp Lines tape. However, you need to think about which media you use the most. If you use a lot of watercolour, then obviously washi tape would be a good tape for you to use. You need to consider the media that you use most. If you enjoyed this clip, then make sure you check out more clips like this in the watercolour playlist. Don't forget to look in the description below for details of products used in today's clip, and if you have any ideas for future content or reviews, please leave a comment below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future content. Also, you can now check out my Patreon page for exclusive content, including real-time content and more.